Okay, we're 1 minute past, so we might get started. So thank you everyone for joining this session. We're really looking forward to today's agenda. We're very pleased to have our sister association in Japan, AMDD, with us today to present on data sharing and medical device standardization in Japan. And I'm very pleased to introduce our two speakers from today's session. Masukawa-san, who's the Senior Managing Director of AMDD and Deputy Director of AMDD Health Technology and Policy Institute, and Kawai-san, Director of Government Affairs, Zimmer Biomet, and also leader of the AMDD Strategy Management Office. So we really encourage this to be an interactive session. We encourage you to ask questions. So please post any questions you have throughout in the comments box. And at the end, we'll also open up to questions via the raise hand function. So a huge thank you again, Masukawa-san and Kawai-san. And I'll hand over to you to get started.
Okay, thank you, Georgia. Everyone of APAC Med, hello from Tokyo, where the cherry blossoms are in full bloom today. We'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to introduce AMDD's activity today. Today's presenter, as Georgia introduced, I am Shigeyuki Masukawa, Managing Director of AMDD. I will explain part one. Go to the next slide, please, Kawai-san. And part two will be explained by AMDD Strategic Management Office, Kawai-san, Zimmer Biomet. First of all, I would like to introduce you to AMDD. The predecessor organization of AMDD was the Medical Device Task Force, which was organized within ACCJ, American Chambers of Commerce in Japan, and was established in 2009. Member Japanese subsidiaries of US-based corporations that handle medical device and in vitro diagnostics, and Japanese companies that handle medical device and in vitro diagnostic in US. You can find AMDD's mission and key activities here. Next, please. Currently, there are 61 regular members and 13 associate members. The slide shows a profile of our regular member. Next slide, please. This is the org chart of AMDD. Under the executive committee, it has by function committee, by specialty committee, and overall committee. And MTPI stands for Medical Technology Policy Institute, and several working groups under Strategic Management Office. Next, please. Now, I would like to move on to the explanation of part one, improve medical device distribution system by using RFID. RFID is an acronym for radio frequency identification, as you well know. And it is a technology that uses radio wave to read and write RFID IC tag information. The advantage of RFID is that it can read and write information using radio wave without contact. You can then read all information in multiple tags at once. Also, no matter how many times you read the same tag, it will only be counted as one. With barcode, for example, if you read the same barcode 3 times, it will be counted as 3. But if you use RFID, the same time will be counted as 1, no matter how many times you read it. And you can read the tag that are far from you as long as the radio wave can reach them. Taking these advantages and the characteristics of RFID, for example, it is effective for cycle counting in warehouse or receiving inspections in hospitals. Next, please. Now, I would like to talk about standardization of the data format for writing to RFID. As you know, Japan is facing super aging society unlike any other in the world. As a result, healthcare expenditure in national expenditure are increasing every year. And the government is eager to curb it. All stakeholders involved in healthcare are under huge pressure to improve efficiency. It is often said that the distribution of medical devices is inefficient in Japan. However, I think that it is not because of the people involved in distribution are lazy, like me, and because of the business environment peculiar to medical devices. That is, consignment of a large number of high-mix products. The government expects that medical device supply chain will be one of the themes to improve efficiency. In Japan, manufacturers dealing in the orthopedic field took the lead in working to improve distribution efficiency by attaching RFID to products. And hospital dealers and manufacturers of cardiovascular fields are starting to use RFID. Next slide, please. Manufacturers to use RFID to improve the efficiency of their own logistics management. Dealers use it to acquire actual consumption data. Hospital use RFID to manage infusion pump location and so on. In Japan, there are many reports of cases where it is effectively used in. However, in many cases, as can be seen on this slide, the information on red RFID, orange RFID, and yellow RFID tag is incompatible with each other because it is suitable for each system and cannot be immediately used for supply chain management that connect manufacturers, dealers, and hospital horizontally. For example, the overall Optimum cannot be achieved by using these appropriate format. By the way, in Japan, the same phenomenon has already occurred in barcode. And one product is distributed with many barcodes that are not compatible with each other. Next slide, please, Kawai-san. Thank you. Therefore, in order to manage the distribution of medical device with a single RFID, AMDD play a central role in standardizing RFID data format. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, in Japan, Zimmer Biomet has been using RFID for its distribution for more than 10 years. For this reason, The standardization discussion started in 2017 with four companies in the orthopedic field. In 2018, an RFID working group was formed in AMDD to start discussions on standardization. And finally, 28 member companies participated to this working group. In addition, 9 non-healthcare companies joined AMDD as associated members at this time with the aim of participating in standardization discussions, mainly from IT and RFID IC tag vendors. In 2019, we decided to adopt the GS1 format as AMDD recommended format. In parallel with the discussion on the recommended format, AMDD participated in the Cabinet Office-led project SIP. The project aimed to develop a data platform that manages distribution information for medical devices. Product information can be obtained easily and accurately by using automatic recognition technology such as RFID and barcode. By adding attribute data related to distribution to the product information and store it in the medical device data platform, then hospital, dealers, and manufacturers can easily access the same information. Kawai-san will talk about this data platform in part 2 in detail. Next slide, please. Let's talk about why AMDD recommended GS1-128 as an RFID data format. In 2008, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare issued a notice requesting the affixing of the GS1-128 barcode symbol in the distribution of medical devices. Last year, in Japan, the Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Act was amended to require labeling for UDI to ensure traceability. Under previous notice and new legislation, GS1-128 is still valid in medical device distribution and UDI. Next slide, please. This slide shows a RFID memory configuration in GS1 format. SGTIN, serialized GTIN 96, is stored in the EPC area, and the expiration date and lot number of product are encoded and stored in the packed object format in the user area. Next slide, please. Several manufacturers and dealers have started operation using the AMDD recommended format. But I will explain the technical issue that have been identified so far. The first issue is about packed object in the user area. Dedicated software is required for encoding and decoding, and the technical information is limited. And the vendors that can develop it are limited in Japan. Second issue is about IC readers and IC tags. Among the handy readers available in Japan, it has become clear that models that can perform batch reading in the user area are limited. And the batch reading speed is relatively slow. In addition, a large memory size required to record the information of GS1 128. So the unit price of the tag is again relatively high. In future, we would like to further promote the spread of RFID and encourage our supplier to develop lower price, high speed anti-terminal and large capacity tags. The third is the issue of intermediate tagging. Ideally, all medical device manufacturers should do source tagging with RFID affixed at the time of a shipment of their product. But this can be very difficult to achieve. In order for RFID to manage products that are not source tagged, a third party other than manufacturers, such as a dealer, must perform tagging on behalf of manufacturer. In this case, we notice that there is no clear rule as to whether the dealer can use the manufacturer's GTIN company code. In order to promote the spread of RFID, it is also necessary to solve this kind of issue. If automatic recognition technologies such as barcode and RFID become widespread, and the data platform for storing such data is established, I think it will be possible to accelerate the overall optimization of medical device supply chain. Next, Kawai-san will talk about the medical device data platform. Thank you very much. And Kawai-san, よろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much, Masukawa-san. Hi, I'm Mark Kawai from Zimmer Biomet. Let me take you a little bit deep dive on what Masukawa-san has mentioned. So as mentioned, in orthopedic, especially in Zimmer Biomet, we have 15 years of already experience with using RFID. These were used for mostly for increasing productivity in our own warehouse. Just for your background, for those who don't know about the business model in Japan, most of the business, I'll say a large amount of the business are based on the lending model, where from the warehouse, we send the products right before the surgery, and they just use the one that they need at the hospital and return it to the manufacturers. Basically, we send like in average, like send 300 items and then receive like 297 items within 5 days. And we're doing this with like 1,700 hospitals here in Japan. So if you take a look of our warehouse, when we ship it out, we now have a tunnel where we read the products, number of products that we're shipping out. And when it's coming back, in the right hand, bottom right, you will see another tunnel where we count the number of products that we receive. Now, as Masukawa-san mentioned, in 2008, at that time, we were using a different format, actually a different frequency. And there were other companies coming up with different kind of tags using different frequency, and even within the frequency, a different format. So we thought it's better, especially for our dealers and hospitals, that we should standardize the format, which Masukawa-san has explained. Now, our vision, as explained earlier, is first of all, increase the safety and quality of the healthcare systems, and also increase our operational efficiencies. And to do this, we can't do it. There's only a limit what we can do by a single company. So what we have started to do is work as an industry to make changes in these areas. As explained earlier, first step was to standardize the RFID format. Just for your background information, as the unique device identifier, the barcode GS1 128 format has been required by the government and will become a regulatory requirement. Now, the second step is to share information, because RFID itself will not really help us. It's just an ID that can be used or can be used to collect the information of which product it is. Of course, we can do this by email, but we do believe it's much better to have a data platform where we can share information with our stakeholders in a real time. Easy to say, hard to do. So to make this happen, or at least make it look like there's a chance to do it, we've been working with the government. And then they sort of asked us to participate in the Cross-ministerial Strategic Innovation Promotion Program, which is known as SIP. And within the SIP, there's a specific program called Smart Logistics Service, where the idea was to come up with a platform for the industry where they can share information. So Boston Scientific and Zimmer Biomet, we started to, we participated from the hearing sessions. And then after that, as the medical device industry, we participated in the research program for business model. And we're now we started the prototype development. So this is just a concept idea. As you can see, the manufacturer, dealer, and hospitals are connected with the medical device information platform. Of course, the hospital will have their own system, which captures all the patient healthcare informations. So our scope is really about sharing the product informations, locations, and others up to the hospitals, where we will not connect with the patient's information directly. The patient information may be collected through the registry data and will be feedback to the manufacturers, but that will be a separate process. By this information platform, manufacturers will be able to work with all the stakeholders by knowing where the products are, when they received it, and what will be returned. To optimize the process, by using the system, we did think there's an opportunity to optimize the work process. So there were like 10 pilot studies conducted under SIP late last year. 4 within the orthopedic category, 3 within the cardiovascular sectors, and 3 within the hospitals. Sorry, some of the fonts are still in Japanese, but this is basically with the system and where we're trying to capture the information or share the informations. Basically from manufacturers to hospitals for the orthopedic products. These are like the 4 areas that we were working on. And for the cardiovascular products, these are the 3 areas that we were working on. The hospital was working with a system where they share the information with their dealers, that's in-house dealers, and also with the medical device manufacturers. So just to give you an idea, at the hospitals where they receive these kind of products and they were checking manually in the old age, now the hospital, they have the RFID tunnel and they can quickly check. And even after usage of the products, they will just scan the boxes, the RFID that's on the boxes, and will connect it with the patient informations. So the patient ID will be connected with the product ID. Some of the hospitals are now looking into process where they can actually read the RFID right before surgery or during surgery. So the system, this is just an example on what it looks like. So based on the serial GTIN, the product ID, we can, from the manufacturer side, easily figure out where the products are, or the trace, how how did it get there? So basically here it's from the warehouse of the manufacturers to the dealers, shipped from the dealers to the hospitals. And if it's returned, it'll say it's returned. If it's used to a patient, it will be captured as it's used at the certain hospitals. So with the data platform, we believe it will visualize the products and logistics. We can quickly identify the product or obtain product details and locations by sharing data through this data platforms. And this, as the Japanese government, they want to capture more logistic commercial data onto the system and move to the sharing economy. Implication is, as I mentioned, it will improve the traceability, easy to figure out which products went where, or if needed, just recall the products immediately. Also at the hospital, product ID, patient IDs are connected, so we will be able to gather better information. So of course, when we receive it, all the PII, personal identifiable information, will be masked. So we will receive information with better quality without any personal information. As mentioned, operational efficiency by sharing like the master data and with better connectivity, we can improve the operation in an industry base. So that's basically it, what we're working on. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer that based on our understandings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Masukawa-san and Kawai-san. That was a really insightful presentation. And I can see we've had one question so far in the chat box. Thank you very much for the introduction. I was wondering who owns the platform.
Shall I answer?
Yeah. I'm sorry, please feel free in the interim, our participants to post any other questions or raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Sorry, go ahead, Kawai-san.
Okay, right now it's sponsored by the government. So the development and everything is all sponsored by the government. What the government wants to do is move it on to the private sector, but not really like a single company. So that's where the industry we're working on right now to set up sort of a neutral organization, or I'll say quasi-government kind of organizations to host this information. Oh, sorry, the manage the database.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from our participants today? Yes, I can see another one in the chat. So is the technology only for instruments, or can it be added to implants / in situ?
Actually, when you say instruments, are you talking about like the instruments of like that are used for the surgery, or the instruments that are more like the capital equipment kind of?
Samir, perhaps do you want to, surgical equipment, I was going to say,
Okay.
Will, surgical instruments.
Actually, right now, the scope is on the products, so the actual implants. So stent, or for cardiovascular, it's the tags that are tagged on, that are tagged onto the stents, and for orthopedic products, it's all the implants that we tag.
Thank you. And another question come through. What is your recommendation on how to approach the subject of standardization in other Asian countries? How should other countries approach this?
That's a great question. Thank you very much for asking that. Actually, that was one of the reasons why we decided to stick with the GS1 standard. Actually, we didn't like it. There's a lot of discussions. within the industry, because as Masako-san mentioned, there is some issue with the packed object and all those kind of things. But we thought there's this, at least at this moment, is the global standard, and the government is trying to respect and follow the global standards on these formats. So if I can say, my advice is to just point the finger to the global standard, the GS1 standards at this moment. Of course, we are now working with GS1, and actually I was in one of the global meeting last year to present what's going on in Japan and shared the similar slides at the GS1 Global Forum. But one thing we're trying to do is, as Masako-san mentions, there are some challenge and issue with the GS1 standards that we want to change, and that's the area that we're working on as an industry also right now. But basically, I think my advice to you on this one is, I hope all the countries can really respect the global standards that is followed and used within the healthcare sector. Thanks.
Thank you, Kawa-san. And another question has come through. So what is the percentage of products with RFID in Japanese market already? Will this become a mandatory requirement, or 2D barcodes also acceptable? I think this is sterilization required for traceability.
For us, we even tag our products with non-sterilized products. All of our implants are already sterilized, so it's ready to go, and it's just the tags are on the outer box.
It's a mistake of serialization.
Serialization.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
okay.
I thought they said sterilization.
Sorry, serialization. Yes, it's all the IDs are unique. So. And the question is, how do you ensure that serial numbers and the linkage with the product? And that's the part that we were talking about the master information or the master data. And going back to the earlier questions, which is, I don't think it will become mandatory. It's hard to imagine the Japanese government asking the industry to do this, but I would not be surprised if the hospital starts to ask the dealers to come up with the products that are tagged with RFID, because it's easier for them to handle. And then the dealer will come to the manufacturer asking for RFID tag products, and I can see that happening. So not mandatory from a regulatory requirement point of view, but more, I think, business practice, there will be more pressure. But I think, again, it really depends on the type of products, and especially for orthopedics, I can see that really coming soon because of the number of the products that we handle on a daily basis. Everybody is tired with it and wanna have an easy way to deal with those kind of things.
Thank you, Kawa-san. Are there any other questions from our participants? No. Okay, so a huge thank you again, Masakawa-san and Kara-san, for joining us today and for a really insightful presentation. And we'll share the presentation afterwards with our members and also upload a recording on the members only site. So if any of you attending today have any follow-up comments, feedback, or questions, please do reach out to me and I can link you to our speakers today. Okay. So thank you again. I think there may be a, oh, sorry, Marilyn, I was.
No. I think you were going to say about the word cloud. Cindy is about to send it. If you could spare a minute with us, because people are dropping now. Cindy, could you share the word cloud for everyone to answer? Should be engaging. So before everyone drops, Cindy is about to send post a word cloud, and everyone can enter the words they want. And we make a nice visual here. I can't help because I'm not techie. Cindy, are you able to do it, or? Okay, can you put in the chat the link? So please just enter, oh yeah, in the chat. So she's put the link, you click on the link and you put the words in there. Maybe I'm the one who's late, which is possible. Are you able to show the answers live, Cindy? We're testing new ways to evaluate sessions.
This is cool.
Oh, Cindy's letting me know that those are the answers, Marilyn.
Really?
Yeah.
It moves so fast. We have too many ideas. It feels like it's a test vote, that's why, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing the right thing. Okay, then. Do you have any more questions, Cindy? Before we thank everyone.
Yeah, I think that's it. So a huge thank you, and maybe we can send the follow-up for the words that we captured in this program afterwards. But thank you again to our speakers, and please do reach out to us if you've got any follow-up questions. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.